The burning ship fell through the purple sky like a dying star. Captain Li Jong watched helplessly as his vessel, the New Soul, broke apart in the atmosphere of planet Valdris. Emergency alarms screamed through the corridors while crew members ran to escape pods. "Get the children to safety first," Jong shouted over the noise. His hands moved quickly across the control panel, trying to keep the ship stable for just a few more minutes. In the passenger section, Nurse Kim Hannah held baby Kang Min close to her chest. The infant was only 6 months old, with bright eyes. That seemed to take in everything around him. His parents had died during the escape from Earth, leaving him in the care of the medical staff. "Hold on, little one," Hannah whispered as the ship shook violently. "We will find somewhere safe," but safety seemed impossible. The escape pods were failing one by one. The planet below was known for its dangerous creatures and poisonous air. No human had ever survived on Valdris for more than a few days. The ship hit the ground with tremendous force. Metal screamed and twisted as the New Soul slid across the rocky surface for nearly a mile before coming to rest against a cliff face. Most of the ship was destroyed. Only a few sections remained intact. In the silence that followed, baby Min cried alone in the wreckage. Nurse Hannah had protected him with her own body during the crash, but she was gone now. The infant lay wrapped in a thermal blanket among twisted metal and broken glass. Hours passed. The purple sun of Valdris began to set, and strange sounds echoed across the wasteland. In the distance, crystal formations glowed with their own light, casting eerie shadows. On the ground, then came the footsteps. Heavy and deliberate. Each step made the ground shake slightly. A massive creature approached the wreckage. It stood 12 feet tall and looked like a cross between a dragon and an armored bear. Thick crystal formations grew from its back and shoulders, glowing with a soft blue light. Its hide was dark gray and covered in natural armor plates. 4 powerful arms ended in claws that could tear through steel. This was Velthara, a thornback and matriarch of her pack. She had lived for over 300 years and had seen many ships crash on her world. Usually she ignored them. The soft flesh beings who came from the sky always died quickly anyway. Valdris was not meant for weak creatures, but tonight was different. As Velthara approached the wreckage, she heard something unusual, a small voice calling out in distress. Not the deep cries of adults, but the high sounds of a very young creature. Her large head tilted as she listened. The crying came from inside the broken ship. Velthara's 4 arms carefully pulled away chunks of metal, being careful not to damage whatever was inside. When she found the source of the crying, she stopped in surprise. A tiny soft-fleshed creature lay wrapped in silver cloth. Its skin was pale pink and completely hairless except for dark fur on its small head. The creature was so small that Velthara could hold it in one hand. The baby looked up at her with bright eyes and stopped crying. For a moment, the ancient thornback and the human infant stared at each other. Velthara had killed hundreds of adult humans over the years. They were invaders who tried to take crystals from her territory. She had no reason to show mercy to this one, but something about the small creature made her pause. It showed no fear, even though she was a monster that could crush it easily. Instead, the baby reached out with tiny hands toward her glowing crystals. Making soft sounds of wonder, Velthara's pack approached from behind her. There were 6 other thornbacks, including her own cubs who were about the same age as the human infant. They sniffed the air and growled softly. "Why do you hesitate, Mother?" asked Granite Claw, her eldest cub. "It is just another soft flesh. Let us leave it for the scavengers." Velthara considered this. It would be the wise choice. Humans brought nothing but trouble. They had weak bodies and died easily. This one would not survive even a single day on Valdris, but as she looked at the infant again, she remembered something from long ago. When she was young, her own mother had found an injured cave runner, a small creature that usually served as prey. Instead of killing it, her mother had healed its wounds and set it free. Sometimes, her mother had said, showing mercy when none is expected creates bonds stronger than blood. The baby reached out again and actually touched one of Velthara's glowing crystals. Instead of being burned by the energy, the infant seemed to absorb some of the light. Its skin took on a faint blue glow for just a moment. Valthara had never seen anything like this. Even her own cubs could not touch the crystals safely until they were much older. This tiny, soft-fleshed creature had done something impossible. "This one is different," she said finally. Her pack members grumbled in disagreement, but none would challenge their matriarch's decision. Carefully, Valthara picked up the baby and held it against her warm chest. The infant immediately stopped shivering and made contented sounds. She would need to modify her milk to feed a soft-fleshed creature. She would need to protect it from the harsh environment. Most of all, she would need to teach it to survive in a world that was never meant for its kind. "You will be called Stormheart," she said in the deep tones of Thornback's speech. "For you came to us in the fury of falling fire, yet your spirit remains calm." As the pack began the journey back to their crystal caves, none of them realized they were carrying the future of the galaxy. Baby Min, now Stormheart, would grow up among creatures of legend. He would learn their strength, their wisdom, and their fierce loyalty. The stars watched silently as the Thornbacks disappeared into the glowing crystal formations of Valdris. Far above, in the cold depths of space, other ships continued their journey to distant worlds. The galaxy moved on, unaware that everything had just changed. In the caves that night, Valthara sang the ancient crystal songs to help her new cub sleep. The sound resonated through the stones and reached out across the planet. For the first time in thousands of years, Valdris sang a lullaby for a human child. 15 years had passed since the crash of the New Soul. The crystal caves of Valdris echoed with the sound of combat training. Two young creatures circled each other in the practice arena, their breathing heavy from exertion. One was Granite Claw, now a full-grown Thornback standing 11 feet tall. His crystal formations glowed bright orange when he was excited or angry. The other was Stormheart, the human boy who had grown up among the giants. Min, as he still called himself in private moments, was now 20 years old but looked different from any human who had ever lived. His skin was tanned dark brown from exposure to Valdris' purple sun. His muscles were thick and dense from growing up in the planet's crushing gravity. Most remarkable were his eyes, which held flecks of blue light similar to Thornback crystals. "You are getting slower, brother," Granite Claw taunted as he swung his massive clawed arm toward Min's head. Min ducked smoothly under the attack and rolled to the side. His movements were fluid like water but powerful like stone. "Maybe you are just getting predictable," he replied with a grin. The human leaped forward and grabbed onto Granite Claw's crystal formations. Using them like handholds, he climbed up the Thornback's back and wrapped his arms around the creature's thick neck. It was a move that would be impossible for a normal human. But Min's body had adapted to life among giants, Granite Claw roared in frustration and spun around, trying to throw his adopted brother off. But Min held on tight, applying pressure to specific points on the Thornback's neck that he had learned would cause temporary paralysis. "Yield," Min said calmly. Granite Claw's legs wobbled and he fell to his knees. "I yield, Stormheart. But only because you fight dirty like a scavenger." "Fighting dirty is still fighting smart," Min replied as he released his hold and helped his brother stand up. From the edge of the arena, Valthara watched with pride. Her adopted human son had grown into something unprecedented. He possessed human cleverness and adaptability combined with Thornback's strength and endurance. More importantly, he had learned the crystal songs, the ancient language of her people. "Stormheart," she called out in the deep harmonic tones that made the cave walls vibrate. "Come, there is something you must see." Min approached his adoptive mother and placed his hand on her massive forearm. This simple gesture would have burned any other human, but Min's skin absorbed the crystal energy safely. Over the years, this ability had only grown stronger. "What troubles you, mother?" he asked, easily switching to the crystal song language. Valthara led him to the cave mouth that looked out over the wastelands of Valdris. In the distance, they could see lights moving across the sky. Ships, but not the usual trader vessels that sometimes visited their world. "Hunters have come," she said grimly. They seek to capture my people for their arena fights. Min's eyes narrowed as he watched the ships land near the crystal formations. He had heard stories of the hegemony, the alliance of alien species that controlled most of the galaxy. They viewed creatures like thornbacks as valuable prizes for their gladiatorial entertainment. How many ships? He asked. 6 vessels. Perhaps 200 soldiers with energy weapons and capture nets. Min was quiet for a moment, thinking. The thornbacks were powerful fighters, but they had never faced modern military technology. Their crystal formations made them resistant to some weapons, but the hegemony had been capturing exotic creatures for centuries. They knew how to do it efficiently. We should retreat deeper into the caves, Granite Claw suggested. Wait for them to leave. But Velthara shook her massive head. They will not leave empty-handed. If they cannot find us, they will destroy our crystal gardens to force us out. Min watched the soldiers setting up their equipment. They moved with practiced efficiency, surrounding the area with energy barriers and deploying capture drones. These were not explorers or researchers. They were hunters who had done this many times before. I have an idea, Min said slowly, but you will not like it. Speak your thoughts, my son. Let them capture me first. I will pretend to be a lost human survivor. When they take me to their ship, I can learn their weaknesses and disable their systems from inside. Granite Claw growled angrily. That is suicide, brother. You may be strong, but you are still soft flesh. They will kill you or worse. Not if I am careful, Min replied. Think about it. They expect to fight thornbacks, not humans. I will be their blind spot. Velthara considered this plan. It was dangerous, but it might work. Her adopted son had always been clever at finding unexpected solutions to problems. If you do this thing, she said finally, you will carry a piece of our crystal heart with you. It will let us know where you are and if you need help. She reached to her own back and carefully broke off a small fragment of crystal. The process caused her pain, but she endured it. The crystal piece was about the size of a coin and glowed with warm blue light. Min took the crystal and pressed it against his chest. His skin absorbed it completely, leaving only a faint glow beneath the surface. Now he truly carried a piece of his family with him. The plan was simple but risky. Min walked out into the open, pretending to be weak and confused. The hegemony soldiers found him quickly and assumed he was a survivor from some crashed ship. They put him in energy restraints and brought him aboard their command vessel. Inside the ship, Min observed everything carefully. The soldiers were a mix of different alien species, but they all showed the same arrogance toward primitive creatures. They spoke freely about their mission, not bothering to guard their words around a helpless human. The buyers want at least 12 adult specimens, one soldier said. The crystal bears from this world fight well in the arenas. Should be easy enough, another replied. We have new stun nets that can penetrate their natural armor. Min memorized every detail of their equipment and tactics. When they began their assault on the crystal caves, he was ready. Using skills learned from 15 years of living with thornbacks, he broke free from his restraints and began sabotaging the ship's systems. The battle outside was fierce but brief. The hegemony soldiers had expected to fight large, slow creatures. Instead, they faced thornbacks who fought with intelligence and coordination, guided by their crystal song communications, but the real surprise came when their own ship's weapons turned against them. Min had reprogrammed the targeting systems to fire on the soldiers instead of the thornbacks. Confusion spread through the hegemony ranks as their technology failed them. By the time the sun set over Valdris, all 6 hegemony ships lay in ruins. Some soldiers had escaped in emergency pods, but most were either dead or captured. Min stood among the wreckage, no longer looking like the weak human they had underestimated. The surviving soldiers would return to their commanders with stories of an impossible human who fought like a beast and thought like a strategist. These reports would spread across the galaxy, reaching the ears of both human resistance fighters and alien overlords. Stormheart had announced himself to the universe, though he did not yet know it. The galaxy was about to learn that humans, raised among monsters, could become something truly dangerous. The fortress moon of Keth Prime hung in space like a giant metal spider. Its surface was covered with prison blocks, fighting arenas, and processing centers where the hegemony brought captured beings from across the galaxy inside its walls. Thousands of creatures lived in misery, forced to fight for the entertainment of their captors. Min floated in the stolen hegemony transport ship, watching the fortress grow larger through the viewport. 3 weeks had passed since the battle on Valdris, but the crystal fragment in his chest still pulsed with warmth from his family. He was no longer the young warrior who had fought soldiers in the caves. Now he was something more dangerous, a hunter with a purpose. 2 thornback cubs taken to Section 7, he muttered, reading the shipping manifest he had stolen. Among the captured were Granite Claw and 5 other young thornbacks from his pack. The thought of his brother in chains filled Min with cold. Anger. The transport docked without suspicion. Min had spent days learning to mimic the behavior and speech patterns of hegemony soldiers. His stolen uniform fit well enough, and most guards paid little attention to individual faces walking through the fortress corridors. Min saw the true scope of galactic oppression. Hundreds of different species were locked in energy cages. Some he recognized from thornback memories passed down through crystal songs. Others were completely alien to him. In one cell, he saw creatures that looked like living trees with faces carved into their bark. They sang mournful songs in a language that sounded like wind through leaves. In another cage, serpentine beings with multiple arms drew complex patterns in the air that seemed to shimmer with their own light. "New shipment goes to processing first," a guard told him when Min asked about the thornbacks. "Boss wants to see if the crystal bears are worth the trouble." Min followed the guard's directions to the processing center. There, he found a sight that made his blood burn with rage. Granite Claw and the other young thornbacks were chained to metal tables while technicians took samples of their crystal formations. Each cut made the creatures roar in pain, but they could not break free from the restraints. Standing nearby was a human woman in a white coat, making notes on a datapad. She had short black hair and intelligent eyes behind protective glasses. Unlike the guards, she seemed uncomfortable with what was happening. "The crystal formations show remarkable energy storage properties," she was saying to a hegemony officer. "But the extraction process is crude. You are damaging the specimens unnecessarily." "We need results quickly, Dr. Park," the officer replied. "The arena masters want to know if these beasts can put on a good show." Dr. Park Sojin looked at the suffering thornbacks with obvious distress. "There has to be a better way. These creatures are clearly intelligent. They might cooperate if treated with respect instead of violence." The officer laughed harshly. "Respect is for civilized species, not for monsters from dead worlds." Min had heard enough. Moving quickly through the shadows, he positioned himself near the security controls. His years among thornbacks had taught him patience and timing. When the moment was right, he struck. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. In the confusion, Min moved like a shadow among the panicked guards. His knowledge of hegemony equipment, gained from studying their ships, let him disable their weapons quickly and silently. "Crystal Song of Home calls you to freedom," he whispered to Granite Claw in the ancient language of their people, his brothers. Eyes went wide with recognition. "Stormheart? How did you find us?" "Family never abandons family," Min replied as he broke the restraints with tools stolen from the guards. As the young thornbacks freed themselves, Dr. Park stared in amazement. She had never seen a human communicate with alien creatures in their own language. More surprising was how the fierce monsters seemed to trust and obey this strange young man. "Who are you?" she asked as Min helped the last thornback to its feet. "Someone who believes all thinking beings deserve freedom," Min answered. He looked at her with crystal-flecked eyes that seemed to see into her soul. "Are you here by choice, or are you as much a prisoner as they are?" Dr. Park hesitated, then spoke honestly. "I was captured 3 years ago when my research ship was attacked. They forced me to study alien biology to find weaknesses for their arena fights. I hate what they make me do." Min nodded. "Then you can choose to be free, But freedom requires action, not just wishes. Around them, alarms began to sound. More guards would arrive soon. But Min was not finished. Using the fortress computer system, he sent messages to every prison block in the facility. The messages were written in dozens of different languages, all saying the same thing. The cages open now. Fight for your freedom or remain slaves forever. Across the fortress, energy barriers flickered and died. Thousands of imprisoned beings found their cells unlocked. Some were too weak or afraid to move. Others roared with joy and began seeking revenge against their captors. "This is madness," Dr. Park said as the sounds of fighting echoed through the corridors. "The fortress has an army of guards. They will kill everyone who tries to escape." "Maybe," Min replied calmly. "But some will escape. And those who do will spread the word that the hegemony can be beaten." As they fought their way through the fortress, Min discovered something remarkable about himself. He could understand the communication patterns of almost every species they encountered. The tree creatures spoke in chemical sense that his enhanced nose could interpret. The serpentine beings used light patterns that his crystal-touched eyes could read like words. How is this possible? Dr. Park asked when she saw him coordinating groups of completely different alien species. "I was raised by thornbacks," Min explained as he helped a group of insect-like beings break through a security door. "They taught me that all thinking creatures share certain patterns of thought and emotion. Language is just finding the right way to connect those patterns." By the time they reached the escape shuttles, Min had organized the largest prison break in galactic history. Hundreds of ships launched from the fortress, carrying freed beings back to their homeworlds or to join resistance movements across the galaxy as their own shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Dr. Park watched Min tend to the injured thornbacks with gentle care. This was not the savage human-beast hybrid she had expected. This was someone who had found strength and compassion and wisdom in diversity. "What will you do now?" she asked. Min looked out at the stars, his expression thoughtful. "Find others who believe freedom is worth fighting for. The galaxy is big, but it is not bigger than the desire to live free." Behind them, the fortress moon burned with the fires of rebellion. Word of the beast speaker would spread quickly through both underground resistance networks and hegemony command structures. The war for galactic freedom had found its symbol. Though Min did not yet realize the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders, he only knew that somewhere in the darkness, between stars, others were waiting for someone to show them that hope was not dead, and he intended to find them all. The hidden asteroid base looked like a graveyard of ships. Hundreds of vessels from different human colonies floated in the artificial atmosphere, their hulls scarred by battle damage. This was Haven Station, the last refuge of the human resistance. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the Rim territories, Admiral Yun-hei stood on the command deck, her weathered face showing the strain of 5 years fighting a losing war against the hegemony. At 60 years old, she had become the reluctant leader of humanity's scattered survivors. Her uniform was patched and faded, but her eyes still burned with determination. "The reports are confirmed," her aide reported. Someone calling himself the Beast Speaker led the breakout at Keth Prime. 3,000 beings escaped, including the Thornbacks from Valdris. Yun-hei studied the intelligence files on her screen. For months, stories had been spreading through both resistance and hegemony networks about a mysterious human who could speak with alien monsters. She had dismissed them as wishful thinking until now. "And our sources inside the hegemony?" she asked. "They are taking this seriously. General Krexter himself has been assigned to hunt down this beast speaker. They see him as a threat to galactic stability." Before Yun-hei could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. A single ship was approaching, broadcasting human identification codes but flying in formation with alien vessels that no human had ever seen before. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "the lead ship is requesting permission to dock. They say they have important information about uniting the resistance movements." Yun-hei felt her heart race. Could this be the mysterious beast speaker? Grant permission, but keep all weapons ready. If this is a trap, I want to be able to fight our way out. An hour later, Yunhei found herself face to face with someone who challenged everything she thought she knew about humanity's future. Min entered the conference room followed by Dr. Park and three beings that looked like living nightmares to most humans. One was Granite Claw, his crystal formations glowing softly in the artificial light. The second was a creature that resembled a giant spider with 6 arms and skin that seemed to shift colors. The third looked like a walking tree with a face carved from bark and eyes like burning coals. Admiral Yunhei, Min said formally, bowing in the manner of old Earth traditions. I am honored to meet the leader of human resistance. So you are the one they call Beast Speaker, Yunhei replied, trying not to stare at his crystal-flecked eyes. I admit you are not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone more human, I suppose, Min smiled sadly. I am as human as anyone born on Earth, but I was raised among thornbacks, and they taught me that strength comes from understanding, not fear. Yunhei gestured at his alien companions. And these creatures? Are they here to conquer what remains of humanity? The spider-like being made clicking sounds that somehow conveyed amusement. Honored Admiral, it said in accented but clear human speech, we Kethmori have been fighting the hegemony since before your species left its birth world. We seek allies, not subjects. The Kethmori are nomadic hunters, Dr. Park explained. They have ships and warriors, but they lack the unified command structure needed to challenge the hegemony effectively. Yunhei studied the alien carefully. She had heard of the Kethmori, though never seen one before. They were supposed to be savage pirates who attacked hegemony shipping. If they were willing to cooperate with humans, that could change everything. What exactly are you proposing? She asked Min. An alliance based on shared goals rather than shared species, Min replied. The hegemony oppresses humans, thornbacks, Kethmori, and hundreds of other races. Instead of fighting separate wars, we should fight together. That sounds reasonable in theory, Yunhei said carefully. But humans have tried alliances with alien species before. We always end up as the junior partners or worse. Min's expression hardened slightly. With respect, Admiral, that attitude is part of why humanity remains scattered and weak. You think in terms of human versus alien when you should think in terms of free versus enslaved. Easy words from someone who was not there when the Zephyrians betrayed the Third Fleet, Yunhei snapped. Or when the Christic merchants sold human colony locations to hegemony raiders. You are right to be suspicious, the tree creature said in a voice like wind through branches. But consider this, the beast speaker freed my people from hegemony. Prisons when no one else would help us. Actions speak louder than promises. Dr. Park stepped forward with a datapad. Admiral, I have been studying the tactical reports from recent resistance operations. The success rate increases dramatically when different species work together. Each race brings unique advantages. She activated a holographic display showing ship movements and battle outcomes. Kethmori hunters excel at stealth and reconnaissance. Thornbacks are nearly indestructible in ground combat. The wheeled folk, she indicated the tree creature, can survive in environments that would kill most other species. And humans provide tactical flexibility and technological adaptation. Min nodded. Separately, we are all prey for the hegemony. War machine. Together we become predators they cannot easily track or counter. Yunhei was quiet for a long moment studying the data. The logical part of her mind saw the advantages of cooperation. But her heart still remembered the betrayals and losses of the past. Assuming I agree to this alliance, she said finally, what would you need from us? Ships, crews, and most importantly, credibility, Min replied. There are thousands of small resistance groups scattered across the galaxy. They will listen to the famous Admiral Yunhei in ways they will not listen to an unknown beast speaker. And what do we get in return? Granite Claw spoke for the first time. You get to stop running and start hunting? My people know the locations of 17 hegemony supply depots. The Kethmori have mapped their patrol routes. The wheeled folk can hide your ships in places the enemy will never search. Over the next several hours, they worked out the details of cooperation. It was not easy. Humans were used to fighting alone, and the alien species had their own traditions and methods. But gradually, a plan took shape. The alliance would be called the Free Claws Covenant, representing species that chose to fight rather than submit. Each member race would maintain their own leadership and traditions, but would coordinate military operations through a joint council. There is one more thing, Min said as the meeting ended. We need to prove that this alliance can work. I propose a joint operation against the Hegemony Fortress at Sigma Draconis. It guards one of their main supply routes. Yun-Hei felt her stomach tighten. Sigma Draconis was heavily defended, with enough firepower to destroy a fleet. But if they could take it, the victory would inspire resistance movements across the galaxy. It will be dangerous, she said. Freedom always is, Min replied. But slavery is worse. As the alien representatives returned to their ships, Yun-Hei found herself alone with Dr. Park. What do you think? She asked. Can we trust him? I think, Dr. Park said slowly, that Min represents something new. Not human replacing alien or alien conquering human, but all species working together as equals. It might be our only hope. Outside the asteroid base, the ships of the Free Claws Covenant prepared for their first joint operation. Humans, Thornbacks, Kethmori, and Wheeled Folk work side by side, learning each other's languages and methods. Min stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the preparations. He thought of Valthara and the other Thornbacks back on Valdris, and of all the beings still trapped in hegemony prisons. This alliance was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, but every journey started with a single step. Soon, the hegemony would learn that their enemies had found a new way to fight. And across the stars, other oppressed species would hear that freedom was possible if they had the courage to reach for it. The battle for Sigma Draconis had been won, but the war was just beginning. News of the Free Claws Covenant's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 100 worlds, oppressed beings looked up at the stars and dared to hope that freedom was possible. Min stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Storm's Heart, watching refugee ships arrive at their new base on the ice world of Fenrir. Each day brought more species to their cause. Some came seeking protection, others came ready to fight. All came because they had heard of the Beast Speaker who united natural enemies into brothers. Status report, Min called to his communications. Officer, a Kethmori named Swiftclaw whose 6 arms could operate multiple control panels at once. 12 new ships arrived this morning, Swiftclaw reported in clicking speech that Min understood perfectly. The singing crystals from Tau Ceti, the stonewalkers from the Vega system, and a group of humans from the outer colonies, Dr. Park approached with her daily intelligence briefing. Over the past months, she had become Min's closest advisor and something more. They had grown to trust each other completely during their missions together. The hegemony is responding exactly as we predicted, she said, activating a holographic star map. They are pulling forces from border regions to protect their core worlds. This creates opportunities for local resistance groups. Min studied the display. Red markers showed hegemony strongholds, while blue dots indicated Free Claws operations. The pattern was clear. Their alliance was forcing the enemy to spread their forces thin. Any word from the Thornback clans? He asked. Valthara's message arrived this morning, Park replied with a smile. The crystal caves of Valdris are ready to serve as our main supply depot. She says the old matriarch is proud of what her adopted son has accomplished. Before Min could respond, alarms sounded throughout the ship. A priority message was coming through on the emergency channel. When the image resolved, they saw the face of Admiral Yun-Hei, her expression grim. Min, we have a problem, she said without preamble. General Choi Tae-min has been appointed as the new hegemony liaison for human colonial affairs. He is broadcasting surrender offers to all remaining human settlements. Min felt his blood turn cold. He knew that name from the resistance files. Choi Tae-min had been a respected admiral in the human fleet until the hegemony offered him power in exchange for cooperation. He had betrayed the defense of New Bizan, leading to the deaths of 2 million colonists. What kind of offers? Min asked. Full citizenship in the hegemony for any humans who agree to help hunt down resistance fighters. He is specifically targeting you, claiming that your alliance with alien monsters is a betrayal of human purity. Dr. Park cursed in 3 different languages. He is trying to divide us along species lines. If enough humans believe his propaganda, our alliance could fall apart. Min was quiet for a moment, thinking. This was exactly the kind of challenge he had been expecting. The hegemony's greatest strength was their ability to turn different species against each other. Where is Choi broadcasting from? He asked. The luxury cruiser New Seoul, named after your birth ship? He is touring human settlements in the core worlds, trying to win converts to his cause. Then it is time for a personal meeting, Min said. Firmly, prepare my shuttle. That is suicide, Park protested. He will have hegemony warships protecting him. Maybe, Min replied. But sometimes the best way to defeat an idea is to confront it directly. 3 days later, the luxury cruiser New Seoul hung in orbit above the human colony of New Jeju. General Choi Tae-min stood before a gathering of colonial leaders, his uniform decorated with hegemony medals and honors. My fellow humans, he said, in a voice that projected confidence and authority. For too long, we have suffered because of foolish pride. The hegemony offers us a place in galactic civilization, but only if we abandon the path of violence and chaos. The colonists listened, nervously. They had heard of the Free Claws Covenant, but they had also heard horror stories about humans who fought alongside alien monsters. Fear and hope warred in their hearts. The one who calls himself Beast Speaker is no longer truly human, Choi continued. He has been corrupted by alien influence. He would drag our entire species down to the level of beasts for his own glory. Perhaps you should let me speak for myself. The voice came from the back of the room. Colonist turned in surprise as Min walked calmly down the center aisle. He was not alone. Granite Claw flanked him on one side, while a Kethmori warrior covered the other. Behind them came Dr. Park and Admiral Yun-hei. Choi's face went pale with shock. Impossible. My security scanners would have detected any approaching ships. Wildfolk camouflage technology, Min replied simply. Another advantage of working with allies instead of trying to conquer them. The 2 men stood face to face in the center of the room. They could not have been more different. Choi wore the polished uniform of hegemony service, every medal and ribbon speaking of cooperation. With power. Min wore simple clothes marked by battle scars, his crystal-flecked eyes holding depths that spoke of years among alien cultures. You have betrayed your own species, Choi said, his voice carrying across the silent room. Look at yourself. You are more monster than man. I see someone who learned that strength comes from unity, not domination, Min replied calmly. Tell me, General, how many humans have died because of your cooperation with the hegemony? I have saved millions by preventing pointless resistance. You have saved no one. You have simply chosen to serve oppressors instead of fighting them. The debate continued for an hour, with each man presenting his vision for humanity's future. Choi spoke of security and stability under hegemony rule. Min spoke of freedom and dignity earned through struggle. Enough words, Choi finally declared. Let us settle this as warriors. Single combat, winner takes all, Min nodded slowly. Traditional. Korean rules, no weapons except what we carry naturally. They moved to an open space in the center of the room. The colonists formed a circle, understanding that they were about to witness something that would shape the future of their species. Choi attacked first, his movements showing years of military training. But his techniques were designed for fighting. Other humans. Min moved like water around stone, using methods learned from Thornback combat masters and refined. Through battles with dozens of different alien species, the fight was over quickly. Min's final move involved a joint lock that Valthara had taught him as a cub, combined with pressure point techniques that Dr. Park had shown him from human medical texts. Choi fell unconscious without permanent injury. As the general was carried away, Min addressed the colonists directly. I do not ask you to follow me because I am human. I ask you to follow the idea that all thinking beings deserve freedom. The hegemony offers you chains made of gold. We offer you the chance to forge your own destiny. When the meeting ended, most of the colonists chose to join the Free Claws Covenant. More importantly, recordings of the confrontation spread throughout human space. The image of their beast speaker defeating the hegemony's champion gave hope to millions. Over the following months, Min's reputation grew beyond anything he had imagined. Other species began calling him the Beast King, a title that spoke of respect rather than fear. His alliance expanded to include over 50 different races, each contributing their unique strengths to the common cause. But Min remained the same person who had grown up in crystal caves. Caring for his adopted family and learning that diversity was strength rather than weakness. When younger fighters asked him for advice, he always gave the same answer. Remember that your enemy is not the being who looks different from you. Your enemy is anyone who would deny freedom to others. Fight for that principle, and you will never fight alone. The galaxy was beginning to understand that a new power was rising, not built on conquest or domination, but on the simple idea that all beings deserved the right to live free. And at the center of this growing storm stood a young man who had learned the most important lesson of all, that family was not about blood or species, but about who stood beside you when the fight came. The final battle began at dawn on the edges of the hegemony's capital system. Two massive fleets faced each other across the void of space, their ships gleaming like stars against the darkness. On one side flew the ordered formations of the hegemony, Armada, representing 1,000 years of galactic dominance. On the other side spread the chaotic but determined ships of the Free Claws Covenant, carrying the hopes of every oppressed species in the galaxy. Min stood on the bridge of the storm's heart, surrounded by beings that most people would call monsters. Velthara was there, the ancient Thornback matriarch having insisted on fighting beside her adopted son. Swiftclaw operated the communications array with 6-armed efficiency. Admiral Yun-hei commanded the human task force from her position beside him. Dr. Park monitored the battlefield through scientific instruments that combined human technology with alien innovation. All ships report ready, Swiftclaw announced. In the clicking language of the Kethmori. Min nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every ship in the Covenant Armada, automatically translated into dozens of different languages. Today we fight not for conquest, but for the right to exist as free beings, he said simply. Each of you chose to stand here instead of bowing to oppression. That choice makes you family, regardless of what world birthed you or what form your body takes. Across the void, the hegemony fleet began to move. Their ships advanced in perfect formation, weapons charging with deadly energy. At their head flew the massive dreadnought Dominion's Fist, flagship of Overlord Krexter himself. The battle that followed would be remembered for 1,000 years. It was not won by superior firepower or better technology. Instead, it was won by something the hegemony had never faced before. Perfect cooperation between dozens of completely different species. Thornback singers provided instantaneous communication across the entire fleet through their Crystal Song network. Kethmori hunters slipped through enemy formations like shadows, striking at weak points that only they could detect. Wheeled folk ships appeared and disappeared, using camouflage techniques that made them invisible to hegemony sensors. Human vessels served as mobile command centers, their crews adapting tactics in real time as new situations developed. The insect-like hive mind species coordinated swarm attacks that overwhelmed enemy point defenses. Energy beings from the Spiral Nebula disabled hegemony computers simply by flowing through their circuits. This is impossible, Admiral Yun-hei breathed as she watched the tactical display. 50 different species fighting as one unit. How are you coordinating all of this? Min smiled, his crystal-flecked eyes reflecting the light of distant explosions. I'm not coordinating anything. They are coordinating themselves. That is what happens when beings fight for something they believe in rather than something they fear to lose. The tide of battle turned when the hegemony's central command ship tried to retreat. Instead of letting them escape, Min did something unexpected. He opened a communication channel directly to Overlord Krexter. "This war can end now," he said when the alien overlord's reptilian face appeared on screen. "Surrender, and your people will be treated with the same dignity you denied to others." Krexter's response was a roar of fury. "I will not bow to a coalition of beasts led by a corrupted human. The natural order demands that the strong rule the weak." "You misunderstand the natural order," Min replied calmly. "Strength is not about domination, it is about protection. I offer you one final chance to choose wisdom over pride. Never." The duel that followed took place on the surface of a small moon between the two fleets. By ancient galactic law, single combat between leaders could end a war without further bloodshed. Both sides agreed to honor the outcome. Min faced Krexter in an arena hastily constructed from the wreckage of destroyed ships. The Overlord was twice his size, with natural armor and claws that could cut through steel. He had ruled the galaxy for over 2 centuries and had never been defeated in personal combat. But Min was no longer the frightened infant who had been found in the wreckage of the New Soul. He was the Beast King, raised by crystal singers and trained by masters from 50 different worlds. More importantly, he fought with the strength of everyone who believed in freedom. The battle was fierce but brief. Krexter had experience and natural weapons, but Min had something more powerful, the knowledge that he fought not for himself, but for every being who had ever dreamed of living free. When the Overlord fell, Min stood over him with a weapon raised for the killing blow. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the Beast King would show mercy or justice. "I offer you life," Min said quietly. "Join us in building something better than the hegemony. Help us create a galaxy where strength serves wisdom instead of pride." Krexter looked up with eyes full of surprise. In his culture, defeated enemies were always killed. The concept of mercy to a fallen foe was completely alien to him. "Why?" he whispered. "Because that is what my family taught me," Min replied. "That every being deserves a chance to choose freedom over fear." Krexter's refusal was not spoken in words. Instead, he activated a hidden weapon and tried one final attack. Min's response was swift and final. The age of the hegemony died with its last Overlord. In the days that followed, hegemony forces across the galaxy laid down their weapons. Some out of despair, others out of relief that the reign of terror was finally over. A few chose to fight on, but they were hunted down by species that had suffered under their rule for centuries. The new Galactic Council was established on a neutral world in the Rim territories. Representatives from every species gathered to write the laws that would govern their shared future. Min was offered the position of supreme leader by unanimous vote, but he refused. "Power should serve beings, not rule them," he said to the assembled delegates. "I will serve as protector of the peace, but the council itself must make the decisions that shape our future." Admiral Yunhei became the human representative, her years of fighting earning her the respect of former enemies. Dr. Park established the Interspecies Research Institute, dedicated to finding ways for different biology to work together. Velthara accepted the role of wisdom keeper, her centuries of experience helping to guide younger species toward cooperation. The galaxy began to heal. Trade routes reopened, but now they carried ideas and culture instead of just resources. Former slave worlds became partners in the new alliance. Children of different species learned each other's languages and customs, building friendships that would last for generations. Min himself chose a quieter role. He married Li Nari, a human pilot who had joined his cause after the liberation of her homeworld. Together, they traveled between worlds, helping to settle disputes and teaching the principles of the Free Claws Covenant. On their wedding day, they returned to Valdris to receive the blessing of Min's adoptive family. Velthara performed the ceremony using ancient Thornback rituals adapted to include human traditions. The crystal caves rang with songs of celebration in a dozen different languages. "Are you happy, my son?" Velthara asked as the festivities continued around them. Min looked out over the gathering. Humans danced with Kethmori. Young Thornbacks played games with children from a dozen different species. Former enemies shared food and stories, building the foundation for a peaceful future. "I am home," he said simply. "And home is wherever." Family gathers to protect each other. Years passed. The Beast King became a legend told on 1,000 worlds, but the man himself remained grounded in the simple truths he had learned as a child among giants. When new conflicts arose, he was there to remind beings that their strength lay not in what made them different, but in what they chose to share. The galaxy bowed not to his power, but to his principles. And in crystal caves on a distant world, an old Thornback matriarch sang lullabies to her human grandchildren, teaching them the ancient songs that had once welcomed a lost infant into a family of monsters who became heroes. The stars watched silently as the galaxy learned to live in peace. And in the space between worlds, the echo of crystal songs carried a simple message to any who would listen, that love was stronger than fear, and that family was defined not by blood or species, but by the choice to stand together when the darkness came. The age of the Beast King had ended, but the age of unity had just begun.